Okay, I'd like to give you a demo now of how things look on the center screen when one is using this program with N1MM, and this is how things would look. This would be just like you're using it live, except I've turned the volumes all the way down so that it doesn't interfere with my commentary here. First of all, across the top you've got the always-on small band scopes. Here's 50 megahertz. You don't see 144 here because 144 is down here in the auxiliary radio position. You've got 222 here. Here's 432, 903, 1296, and then you don't see the microwave because microwave is here in the main radio position on top. These positions are always exactly the same. I want them always in the same place so that one can have a great deal of familiarity when one is using the radio, operating a contest or whatever. And then below these always-on band scopes you have main radio with a full set of controls and auxiliary radio with full set of controls, as you can see there. And then below that you've got the controller bar, which has two rows. The main row, which has the main radio band selection, and below that is the auxiliary radio row where you have band selection. And then next to that you've got a control labeled foot switch. You can assign the foot switch to either the main or the auxiliary radio. Same thing with microphone and the CW key. You've got ability to mute the radios here individually, and you can reset mic and audio in case there's some kind of glitch there. And then we'll get into the setup control a bit later. Next to the main radio is the N1MM entry window for the main radio. Next to the auxiliary radio is the entry window for N1MM for that radio, and you can see these track the N1MM tracks the frequency. As far as N1MM is concerned, it's seeing two TS2000 radios, each of which covers from 50 megahertz through 24 gigahertz. There are several ways you can change the frequency. You can do it within a band just by clicking on the display here, and you'll see that N1MM follows frequency there, both for the main radio and for the auxiliary radio. You could also change frequency within a band or otherwise by just typing the frequency here into N1MM. And if you want to change bands, let's say you want to bring 50 megahertz down to the main radio position here, you can just left click on it. That brings it right down like that, very nicely. If you want to change bands, you can just down here in the control bar say select 222 for the main radio, and that will bring 222 down there like that. Or you can type a frequency in here. Let's say we want to go to let's say 903.070 for this band. Type it in, hit enter, and there we are, right on 903.070. Things work similarly, if not identically, for the auxiliary radio. To bring a little band scope down to the auxiliary position, instead of left clicking, you right click. That brings it right down. You can again just select by clicking down here. Let's bring 1296 down. We'll just click the 1296 in the auxiliary row there, and that brings it right down. Or you can just type the frequency for either radio into N1MM as we saw. Let's do 5760 100. And there we are. That brings us to 5760 100. And incidentally, that also switches the appropriate transverter, and that's all done through the computer here without any need for any extra band switching or anything like that. And again, N1MM always tracks it, and the radios track N1MM. There are some other niceties. Each band has separate setup control for setting the minimum and maximum for the spectrum grid display, high and low color levels for the waterfall. Waterfall AGC can be turned on. Set the maximum AGC level, which needs to be different for each band, and you can set sample rate and FFT size separately. You might want to have different size FFT and different sample rate on the microwaves than down on 6 meters or something of that sort. There are some controls which set up functions which you'd like to see for all the bands, or which don't need to be band dependent, and those are gotten by clicking on setup down here in the controller bar. You've got some common parameters. Set CW pitch. You can decide whether you want the CW key down signal, receive audio, transmit audio, TR control to be going over the Ethernet, or if you want, you can use the old legacy hardware SDR controller box that I had with the old forms of the program, although I don't use that anymore. I do everything over the Ethernet. You also set the COM port on the client computer, the one you're sitting at, for the Win key or straight key, whatever you're using, and also for the foot switch. You can set the palettes to any one of a number of palettes here for the waterfall. And then you set where the VNC program is on the client computer. We'll go over why we do that in a moment. Other things you have control of, you set the server IP address for each of the radios. You set the COM ports that this program uses to communicate with N1MM. And these are, in case you are using the legacy hardware controller, this sets the COM ports to that. You turn the HF band on and off there too. Transverter tab lets you set the LO and an offset for every band. There's a gain by band function here for transmit, in case you've got wide disparities among drive levels required by your transverters. I don't have that much of a drive disparity, and so I just leave all these set at 50, and then I adjust the drive on each band. As you can see here on 903, I've got that set to 84. 5760, I've got that set to 50. There are some times when you might want to get to the SDR server directly. There are some parameters that you're going to set when you install the radio and forget. You don't want to have to deal with those when you're operating day-to-day basis or during a contest. And so what you do is you click on that VNC, and it brings up a VNC instance of the computer where the server is for each band. And then you can go in here and you can set all of these many forgettable parameters for each radio, but again, you don't want to have to be seeing those or thinking about them, dealing with them on a day-to-day basis. Or of course, you can do any direct control you want here once you're in this VNC. And let's see what else is there. I think those are the main points. You can see each radio here. You've got, of course, frequency display. You've got the spectrum and the waterfall. You've got S meter. You got volume control, AGC gain, filter width, transmit drive level, mic gain, processing on or off processing level, whether you want a noise gate or not on transmit. Got a couple of noise blankers, a noise reduction algorithm, a notch filter, preamp on or off, CW sidetone on or off, squelch on or off. Then you've got mode control, got the usual modes here. AGC is adjustable, and step size in case you're changing frequency using either the up-down arrows on the keyboard or something like a Shuttle Pro. And of course you got your zoom in, zoom out. You can go all the way out to 192 kilohertz. We have got it set up now. I bring that down to 75%, 50%, or 25% of that value, or you can use this control here with any one of those larger gradations and bring it way down. Here you can see we've got this is 1 kilohertz between here and here, so you can get quite zoomed in if that's your desire. And then what else do we have? N1MM has a nice rotor controller here. That's integrated fully, of course, too. You put the grid in here, you click a hotkey combination, and the rotor goes to that position. So that is the brief whirlwind tour here.